Hey everybody, we're back in the shop again working on this CJ3A project. I've got the transmission stuffed with some rags, ready for sandblasting. Transfer case has some of its major pieces back on it, and we'll get that sandblasted. Got everything as degreased as I could, and it's pouring rain outside today, so we're not going to go out there and blast. And I'm waiting on another shipment of sand. I think I'm going to need some rougher sand to get all the junk off these things. And that's supposed to be delivered when it stops raining one of these days. So what I think I'm going to do is get into that steering gear, see what that looks like inside, and I'll show you when that comes apart. So we still got the axles to get into. They're still sitting there just waiting, but I'm going to get into that steering gear over there today. So I'll get set up and get the cover off there and get the pitman arm off and stuff like that, and I'll show you that as it happens. Okay, I'll get set up for that now. Okay, before I take that pitman arm off, I like to mark it so I can get it back on the shaft in the same position. So we'll just take a center punch and we'll punch both sides of it. Okay, and I've got to move the camera now and turn the box around, but just mark your pitman arm and your shaft in there, and that way you get it back in the same position. Okay, I've got the impact gun out with a 15/16 socket, and let's see if we can get that nut off there. Yeah, not bad at all. Okay, now that's on a spline there, a tapered spline, so we're going to have to get a puller out and get that pitman arm off there with a puller. So I'll dig that out next and get that pulled off. Okay, there's the style puller that I like to use. That one's made by OTC Tool Company and allows you to lock the jaws in place. Here's a couple other ones. These don't work real good. Sometimes this is too wide to fit over there, it only hits a little bit. And there's a couple different ones here, but it doesn't seem like they will, but these jaws will actually spread and slip over that. So this is a much better style, and it works better, and this is the one I've been using for years. You can get by with these if you're lucky, but they don't last very long. So we got a 1-inch socket here, and we'll try and get this pitman arm off here. Okay, that pulled off fairly easy, and we're just going to set this aside, deal with this a little bit later. Bench is getting kind of crowded with all this stuff on it. Really got to get out there and start sandblasting. But we'll get the cover off, and we'll look at this tube and worm here, see what that looks like, and a sector shaft, and see what that looks like, and then we'll see if we need any parts for this. Okay, when you're taking this off the frame, just keep track of any shims that are between the steering box and the frame. And this one had a few of them right down here in this hole. And that tilts the column to hit the body right. So keep your shims where they come out, and be careful of keeping them in the right order. Alright, so we'll pull the cover off here. There's another area here where you can see the bolts go directly into the case. They're covered in oil, and eventually they'll start weeping. So a little bit of thread sealer on those will keep it nice, the box nice and dry. Okay, pretty clean in there. Not a lot of water or any rust in there, so that's good. It's a little dirty on the other end. I'm going to have to clean that other end off before we can pull that shaft out of there. So let me get that cleaned up. Okay, we're going to pull that shaft out of there now that I got it cleaned up. Bushings don't look too bad. We'll take a look better at those in a minute. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but it started scoring right there and right there where the bearings are. I think that's why the steering was tight. And another area you got to check for wear is these two little buttons here. Just a little bit of wear on those. Not terrible. I don't like the way it's wearing on the bearings. I'm not sure why that is. We may put new bearings in there and ream them to size. Sector shaft looks pretty good. Looks like we can use it again. But we'll get it cleaned up better and see. Okay, that doesn't look too terrible in there. What you want when you put there's shims under here, and what you want when you put your tube and worm in there, you don't want any up and down play, and this one's real good. It's pretty solid. There's little balls down there that are in a cup, and that's what that rotates on. We'll get that pulled apart. I don't think we're going to need to adjust the shims because this has no up and down play in it, which is a good thing. So I'll get that pulled apart, and I want to look at those bushings a little closer and see why the sector shaft is so tight in there. But that's what we're going to do next. Okay guys, we got the bolts out of the top cap here. Here's your shims, and that's what shims this and gets you the right preload on these balls in here. You see this cap with the shims could come up a little bit, so you wouldn't be squeezing it so tight in there. So keep track of your shims. I like this shim pack. It was shimmed properly, and that didn't have any up down play to it, so we'll probably reuse those again. I'm going to pull this off, and then we'll work this tube and worm out of here and see what those balls look like. I can't tell if there's rust down in there or if it's just a little bit of oil on there, but we're going to pull them out and be sure of what's in there. So I'm going to work on that now. Okay, here's the inside of our box. Pretty clean. We'll wash all that stuff out of there, and of course we'll clean this off and sandblast it up so we can paint it nice. And here's what's called the tube and worm. You've got your ball bearings down the bottom that spins on, and we got them up here at the top too. And we're going to clean those off and make sure they're in good shape. Inspect the cups and inspect for any wear right in this area here around all these. And then we'll put it back together and we'll give it a test feel. And I think we're going to wind up taking those bushings out. I don't like the look of them, and I don't like the way they were wearing the shaft, so I'm probably going to bang those out. And here's our seal here to keep all the lube in there, and we'll talk more about the lube as I go. These are not designed for grease. Don't put grease in these. There is special power steering box gear oil, not grease, and not just 90 weight or anything like that. There is steering box lube, and I'll show you that when I put it in and show you the viscosity and show you what that looks like, and it's supposed to be in there. And I'll show you that when we put it in when the box gets finally assembled. So I'm going to get those bushings out, and I'm going to get these bearings taken apart. Okay, we took this cup off the bottom here, and that's held in place with this little snap ring. That's under the cup, and then that's on your worm gear here. So it looks kind of dark in here, like it's been rusted. There's not a lot of rust showing, but it's very, very rough in there. And I took the bearings out, and they're dull. They're not rusty, but they have a very rough feel to them. It's hard to see there, but I think some water got down in there and mixed with the oil, and those are just running in the water and the oil mix, and they're very rough. And this is very rough also. And I don't know if we can polish it up or if I want to. I think we're just going to replace that. We're going to put a new upper and lower set of the bearings in here. And the tube itself, right in this area, I'm going to polish that up. That's rough also. Not enough to make me want to change it. There's another ball there, and they're rough to touch. They're not smooth, and that's not what we want in our steering gear. So let me get the top one off, and then we'll clean that off a little bit and see what we got. Okay, I got the seal in the bearings, the bushings knocked out, and I don't know if you can see in there, right on the back side there. We got real bad score marks there, and on the opposite side we've got some bad score marks in there. I don't know if you could see it in the camera, but I'm not happy with these bushings. Same thing here. It's wearing on that side. Some real bad scoring on that side too. I don't know. I think they're the original bearings. I don't know. If they're not, somebody just put them in and didn't ream them right. But we're going to get some new ones of these. And obviously we'll put a new seal in. And we'll put new bearings top and bottom. And other than that, the hard parts look pretty good in here. So we'll get parts on order, get them in. In the meantime, we'll get that sandblasted with the rest of the stuff, because the bench is getting kind of jammed up with stuff here. Not much room for anything else. I think we'll move on to the axles next. I'll show you how to get the rear hubs off and pull the axles out with some special tools, and we'll get on to that next. Again, I don't know if I'll get that today, but that'll be what's coming up next. Okay guys, I got the steering worm set up in the lathe here, and I'm just going to hit these spots top and bottom. They look smooth, but they're rough, just like the ball bearings were, and I just want to get those polished up a little bit. Just going to use some 3M Scotch-Brite and hit those couple areas. And that's spinning way out of whack. I don't know why that's spinning so out of round there. I'm going to take it out of there and see what's going on, see if it's chucked up or if it's crooked. So let me check that out and I'll be right back with you. Okay, I guess it's a good thing we chucked it up in the lathe to clean those bearing surfaces. They cleaned up nice, but what I found out was we've got a real bad bend in this. I was wondering why the steering was so tight on this and everything was in good shape. That has a real bad hook in it right there, and I'm not going to try and straighten it. It's so bad I don't think we're going to get it out. we're going to need a new shaft, and I guess that explains why the steering was so tight. It was hard to steer even when I was taking it and bringing it in the shop. It was very hard to steer, and the steering wouldn't come back. So that's what's going on. You saw it spinning in the lathe all crooked, and you could see it by eye. I don't know if you could see it in the camera, but you could see by eye. It's from right about here. You know, it just dips down. So bad news there. We're gonna need a new shaft, but it'll make a safer steering box in the end. So we're not gonna be able to save that one. Okay guys, I spent a few minutes cleaning up this sector shaft here. Got a little grease on it, but it cleaned up perfectly, and it measures out perfectly at about 873 and a half. That gives it about inch and a half 1.5 thousandths, I mean, clearance when I ream the bearings to 875. So this is in remarkable shape, and even these guys here that always wear are very nice. I think what happened, because this worm was out so much, I think they backed off the screw on here, and this wasn't really hitting inside the worm down there. And what it was doing, it was binding, because the shaft had such a bend in it, it was binding on that top bearing, and it was giving some hard steering. So it was just a mess, and we're going to replace the tube there. But everything else isn't terrible. So we can reuse that sector shaft. We're going to put new bushings in there, and we'll re-shim everything and put some new bearings, and it shouldn't be too bad. I originally thought we were going to be able to save this, but it's way out of whack. If I just roll it there on the table, you can see how far out of whack that is, and that's just causing real stiff steering. So that's what we found out today. We figured out the steering problem. We'll get some parts in here and start putting it back together. And that's about it for now on the steering gear. Like I say, we'll move on to the axles next, but that's going to wrap it up here for the steering gear. So on to the axles, and we'll see you next time, where we'll pull off the hubs and drums. They've been draining now for a while, so they should be completely drained. We'll pull off the tie rod tubes and tie rod ends. We'll get these hubs out. We'll pull the axles out, and this rear axle feels a little crunchy in there when I just turn that a little bit. I don't like the feel of that, so that's going to be a surprise when we open that up. But that's going to be next time, and feel free to hit the like button or subscribe, or anything special you want to see. Just give a shout and I'll try and get it out there for you. Leave me a comment. If you're at a particular point in your restoration, you need some information, just shoot me a comment and I'll see if I can help you through it. Okay, we'll catch you next time when we do the axles.